Good morning and welcome back to Object-Oriented Programming Approach with Python, Accessors and Mutator methods, right? We are going to put focus on the professional login system or professional login design using Python, and we are going to see how to utilize mutators and accessors up to the extent possible, right? And we'll see the model design, or we can say model 2 design of programming, where we'll understand the MVC pattern and we'll try and draw, or we will try and engineer our application as per the MVC pattern. So that's very important. MVC pattern will be touched today, but starting with accessors and mutators. I just shown you glimpse yesterday, but yeah, for me it's better to start from the scratch. So we have made two files, accounts.py and users.py. And you know that every Python file, right, whenever we go and learn Python, so the extension of Python file is always going to be .py, right? So py means extension of Python file. So Python file they always have .py extensions, right? So let me get quickly started with accessors and mutators. So we are going to make a model first. So I'll say this is going to be my model here. So just name it. I'll say it's class users, right? And this class users has a constructor which is a 0 parameter constructor, right? And I will define this constructor just like this, all right? And it is going to have this self within it, right? So it's absolutely understood, right? Okay, all right then. If you want to change, in case there are many students who are not able to have this kind of layout that I'm running, right, you can directly go and change your preferences. You can see here, right, you are having this rich text, and you can change your text. You can change format, right, and you can change theme as well, right? And you can see here I'm running Spider 3 theme. You can run Spider 2, right? Or you can run Spider 3, right? And you can change many different things. For example, we have an editor right here, right? We have the run environment right here. We have the syntax coloring. You can change from Spider to ideally. Now once you change this to ideally, you can see that the syntax coloring will resemble as that of idle, right? And it can be right, dark, right? So if you're not liking the dark theme, you can change to Spider dark, right? So many different things are available here. If you want to use the basic, you can say this basic Spider theme, you can use that as well, right? No, I don't want to restart anyways, right? Okay, now, so this is my init, right? So this is going to be my init, self, self, right? So now I will define some member variables here. I will say self dot username. I will define only 3, right? Initialize it with blank string. So I'll say self dot password and self dot message. So I'll show you how to use all 3 of them, all right? Slowly and steadily, right? So now we have created these things. Now what we need to do is create accessors and mutators. We can say accessor methods and mutator methods. As I said, accessor is going to be getters, and mutators are also known as, or they are going to be also called as setters, all right? So we have getters and now we have setters. Getters are, right, what did I say? Mutators. Getters are accessors, right, and setters are mutators. So now I have to give this read permission. Now how do you create a function which gives read permission to this variable? So I'll say okay, I will create a function and I will define this function as, right, what is this here? I don't know. I will define a function known as, let me call a function, let me say define a function which is going to be get user name, and this is going to be taken as a mutator or an accessor function, not the mutator. So this is where we are defining this function get user name, all right? And then we have to define another known as set username, as you're aware of, let's say about both of them, right? So you know that how to define both of them, right? So this is going to be now get username, and inside this function. Okay, so inside this function what I do, I will say, hey, return back to the function, right, whatever is in self dot user name. Return return, return back whatever is in self dot user name. So now this becomes my getter, or it becomes my accessor, right? So now I'll create another accessor here, all right? So I'll create three accessors. One is going to be get username, another is going to be get password, another is going to be get message, right? So this is going to take return self dot password, right? And this is going to take self dot message, right? So these are three mutator accessor methods now. All right, so whatsoever is in this username will be returned back to the function get username. We're returning back whatever is here to this get username. That means whenever we call this get username, we are not accepting any parameters here. That means get, we have to read only. We're reading only whatever is already there. All right, so we're reading whatever is in password here will go here, whatever is in message here, right, will go here, right? So for example, if I do now, just for the sake of making you guys understand, if I do something like this, I'll say print, let's say, I will say print, I'll just make an object of this class right here. So let me go and make an object of the class. Just wait a minute. I'll make an object of the class which is going to be my class. Alright, and I'm going to make an object of this class which is class users. So I will say users u equals new users, right? So users, users. Let me see invalid syntax. Why? Users, yeah, it's an object that we are defining. So class users, and it is inside the class right here. Yeah, absolutely all right. So we don't have, so this is inside the class. All right, so this is outside the class now. Okay, now we have to indent it well. All right, so let me just go and check it out. Okay, we still have users u. Okay, what is new users? So I'll say, okay, I'm using just like Java, right? Sorry. I will say u is equivalent to user. So I just, at times I forget the language that I'm teaching you in. All right, so we have to remember, but yeah, forgetting is not a good option. All right, so you cannot dare to forget. Okay, now let me run it. Yeah, it's absolutely all right. Then I can say, hey, I need to print u.get user name, right? Can I print u.get username as a function? I'll say, yeah, why not? But there's nothing in this username, right? Now see the magic what mutators and accessors do. So I'll say self.username is equal to Fahim. Now if I carry on, now you can see I get Fahim just by printing this get username. But yeah, I don't want to do it here, or I don't want it to be hard coded. I'm just making you guys understand, and otherwise I don't intend doing this, right? My intentions are not this, so I don't want to create any object here also. Right, and now let me create setters, or which are also known as mutators. Right, so let me now create mutators, mutators, right? And then I'll show you the use. Why do we require accessors and mutators? So we'll see the usage, and we have ample amount of time remaining, so we'll be able to check each and everything today. Right, so let me create now. I will define a function known as get or set. Now because they are mutators, so I'll say set user name. I'll take self here, and I'm going to accept one parameter as u. Right, and I will say this, right, which is this self, right? So I'll say self dot username is equivalent to u, right? So this is your setter. So now whenever you call set username, it's a function. Now because the function accepts one argument, right? I repeat, whenever you call set username, it's because the function accepts one argument here. You are taking that argument and dropping it to this user name, right? All right, now so if you understood this, then it's fine. All right. Okay. So now the second thing that I want to say is the following. Okay, that we have to make 1, 2, and 3 methods here, which are 3 mutator methods. Right. So set password, and it is going to say it's accept p, and we will say this dot password is equivalent to the p that you are accepting here, and message maybe you are accepting m, and then you can say set message, and then you can say write self dot me, right? So you can say self dot message is equal to m, right? So whenever you call this function, you pass one parameter, and that parameter goes here, and this is set. Whenever you want to get whatever is in this right, username is already returned to the function, means you are getting and setting. So these are accessors and mutators. So let me go and call these accessors and mutators right here. Alright, so the first thing I will do, right, so I will say, hey, I need to make an object user. But how do you make an object user? So if I say users, right, or we can say u is equivalent to user. So now you want to make an object, but yeah, you'll not be able to make an object unless basically you are clear in what you are doing. What do you want? So I'll say I want this. Now what is users? Right, I can say what is users. So I can say print u dot, I can say print u dot, now you can say get user name. So you can print this u dot get user name if you want to print, right, and you're getting Fahim. Now where do you get this username, and where did you get this from? All right, u is equal to user. So there's no Fahim, there's nowhere Fahim. All right, maybe it is overused, so I'll have to first, it's getting the old instance maybe, so I'll have to make sure that I do something here. Just a moment. All right, so I'll go to my MS Paint. I don't know. Just a moment. Alright, so let me import it here. So now we're using user. So I will go to my this class, or I'll make a new class, right? So I'll say I'll make a new file, and I call this as login panel. So for example, this is going to be my login panel now. So I call users u, right? Or I can say u is equivalent to users, right? So can I make an object of users here? Which you think I can make? No. You can see that we're getting an error, right? What is an error? Right, so you clearly say undefined name user. So we're not able to find this name user. So I can say import, right? So we have this users.py class here. I can say import users, or we can say, right, now if I say import users, you can say that it has a table module object is not callable. So I can say u is equivalent to users dot users, right? Or you can say import users. This is the file that you're trying to import here, because you have to use it. How can you use without importing it here, right? You have to give the reference. You can say import users as u. You can give it an alias u, and then you can say, or maybe you can give usr. You can give this an alias usr. Then you can say you make an object of the class u is equivalent to usr dot user. So this is how you can make an object of the class. Now if you run, absolutely alright, so there's no problem in the modules, and you can say related modules is users, right? Absolutely alright. Or you can say from users, you can say import, because the name of the file is users and the name of the class is also users. So first import is going to be the name of the file, which is users. You can clearly see here it is users.py, and second is going to be the name of the class. So I'll say from users import users, right? That means you are importing from this file, you're importing the class users. Now you can say, you can use users directly without any error. Now you can say u dot, now you can say set. Now you can say every single thing is accessible from this file, right? So the first thing that I am going to do, I will say u dot set user name is going to be an input that you are taking from the user, while telling the user that, hey user, enter your username. You mind if you enter your username? He'll say, okay, I don't mind. Right, I would enter your username. So enter your password. You mind if you enter your password? And that too we're taking as input. So both the inputs, we say input right here. Okay, let me do it like this, so I can say username is equivalent to this input, right, and password is equivalent to this input, right? So that we can do. And the second thing that I can take here is, I'll take this username and I'll say, hey, u dot set username this, and u dot set password and this, right? And here I can do print just to check, right? I can say u dot get user. So I can say u dot get, okay, that is user name, and I can say comma u dot get, and I can say get password right here. So now we can do this. Now let us say, okay, enter your username. So I'll enter your password. So I will enter. So now I get enter username and password that you have entered. So we can see there we are getting the username and we are getting the password, maybe. Okay, u dot get username, right? So we are setting username only, so we are not setting password here, sorry. Now we'll have to try again. Enter your username. I'll enter my username as Fahim, and I will enter my password as password. Okay, set password has no attribute set password. Didn't we make set password? Yeah, C password is there. Okay, so enter your name. So I'll enter my name, enter your password, enter my password. Name up is not defined, password up. What is that? Okay, we have basically done some mistake in users.py. Okay, let me go and, yeah, it's here. You are accepting P, right? Set PASS password, spelling mistake, and you are accepting P and you're passing UP. What is UP? Uttar Pradesh, right? So that's the mistake you were doing. So I'll correct that mistake here, and I'll also correct this mistake right here, right? So PASSWORD. So let me say FAHIM, and I will say password is, so I'm getting Fahim and password. Now we have checked that both the accessors and mutators are working. Set is working and get is also working. So it would be better if we use just like this. Input will directly go to the setter, and whatever value we take, username and password from the user, will directly go to the user. Why using and wasting extra variables? So there's no fun of wasting extra variables. So directly input is taken from the username, right? Or sorry, directly input as a username is taken from the user, goes to user. Then you say u dot set username, right? And then you say u dot set password, the password that you take as an input, and then you print the same, right? And it is going to behave in the same manner. So enter username Fahim, enter password, which is going to be password, and then you are getting Fahim and password. So this is it. We don't want to do more than this. Right here, what I can say, I want to print something like this. I'll say student login panel. So let me make it just like this. Yeah, so we're getting this print as a string, right, and not as whatever you may think you'll print it as. You have to print it as plain string. Yeah, all right, so printing it as, so let me, because we have a very little screen here, right? All right, so let me enter Fahim password pass. Okay, run it again. Yeah, student login panel, enter your username. You're getting it here. All right, and now when I enter username, and then I get enter your So the thing is done right here. So now my model is completely ready right here. So let me go and make an accounts, or we can say this is my accounts.py file. So I'm going to prepare my controller here. And before I prepare the controller, let me give you an overview of MVC pattern. It's the modern style pattern. So let me, it's a web server. So I was just showing someone this client and web server. I don't want to show you this. Right? For example, if I give you an example of a restaurant, right? You all been to a restaurant, right? Let me know the names of restaurants that you go to, if you could, right? All right. So now let's say it's a client, and client goes to a restaurant, or we can say customer, to be more precise. Customer goes to any restaurant, right? And let me say like this, and he meets, who is the first one to come up to the customer or come in front of the customer and take his order? Who is the first one? So you'll say, sir, the first one to go to the customer to collect the order is going to be none other than the waiter. So I'll say, yeah, absolutely right. And where does the waiter take order to? You will say the order will go to the kitchen, or you will say the order will go to cook, I suppose, right? Yeah, maybe kitchen, maybe cook, both are correct. Alright, so I will name them, right? So this is going to be my customer. This is the model MVC pattern. I'm making you understand what an MVC pattern is, alright? And it's why is it very important in Model 2 design. It's very important. Whatever you will learn, or whatever you may learn after this from today, right? Be it Django, be it any web application development, be it enterprise Java Beans, EJB, Spring, Struts, Microsoft .NET Framework, ASP.NET, MVC, ASP, MVC 4, 5, 6, whatever you learn from today, you'll find this kind of logic, right? In everywhere, right? And this kind of logic is sure it's going to help you in programming and to get better in programming. So, all right. So you have a waiter and you have a cook, right? So three main things that we have here. Now what do you do? What does the waiter do? Goes to the customer and collects the order, right? And here goes to the customer and collects the order, takes the same order to the cook. Cook cooks the order and gives it back to the waiter. Waiter takes the same order back to the client. So now the communication is working something like this. So customer is giving order to cook. The cook is taking, or we can say it like this, the cook is taking same order where, sorry, the waiter is taking same order to the cook, right? Cook is preparing the food, right? And is giving back to the customer. Is that clear or not? Is it clear? Alright, so now what we have to do and what we have to understand right here is, now does the, I'll write it down here. So I'll say, does the customer know who the cook is? You will say, sir, no. Number two, does the cook know who the customer is? Right? So I'll say no, right? So number three, right? Is waiter cooking? You will say no, right? Number four, is cook is cook collecting or delivering the order? You will say no, 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 and no. Right? The cook is not collecting or delivering the order. The customer does not know who the cook is. So customer doesn't know who the cook is. Alright, the cook doesn't know who the customer is, but both know waiter. Alright, and that is what the funda is, that everybody should do its own job. That is what the core the heart of object-oriented programming is. Now, what is the heart of object-oriented programming? And what does object-oriented programming say? It says, right, that divide and let everyone do its own job, right, without caring about, right, others. So this is the real world logic being applied to MVC pattern right here. We're learning MVC pattern. How do we draw? We're not using any MVC framework. Yeah, tomorrow we may learn a new MVC framework. We know that we have Django, which is used as an MVC framework here. And all those who qualify, right, we have to go for a manual Viva test after this. So then we'll see all those who qualify will work with Django. But yeah, right, Django is a complete MVC framework. And now what is framework? Framework is a collection of pre-built libraries and classes. But here we're making a pattern. What is pattern? Just the way we are architecting the application. Right, pattern is just the way you architect your application, and framework uses pre-built classes and libraries. Right, so that's sufficient for you to understand. Now, does the customer know who the cook is? You'll say no. Does the cook know who the customer is? You'll say no. Right, both of them know waiter. Now, in programming, we call this customer as UI, which is user interface, right? Or we call this as PL, which is presentation logic, right? So these are two names given to this, right? Just let me make me a little. So you can call this customer as UL, right, which is UI, which is user interface, or PL, which is presentation, and you can call this waiter as different things, but yeah, this presentation logic can be also, okay, let me call this waiter first. You can call this waiter as model, right, and we can call this cook as controller, right? So let me take it here. So this is controller, and this is the model, alright, and this is the view. Alright, so what is view, and now what is the difference here? Alright, I'll just show you the difference. So now view is basically the UI, which is the user interface, or the PL, which is the presentation logic. So now MVC we have to understand, because we're learning a pattern which is known as MVC. So this pattern is known as MVC, which is MVC pattern. We're not learning any MVC framework, right? Model, view, and controller, right? So this is what we are going to learn: model, view, and controller, right? So this is the core concept of model, view, and controller, right? That cook should not peep in and do the job, do half a job, or maybe full job, or maybe half of the job of a waiter. So that's not going to be the case. That is not object-oriented programming. And let not the customer do self-service also, right? Let waiter get the order, take it from cook, and deliver it to the customer, right? Same way. Now you can see a perfect cycle, right? And this is view. Customer is our presentation logic, and this is view. Now what is waiter doing? It's doing the job of model. What is the job of model? Get and set. That's what we are doing here. Or we can say give and take in our language, right? So we are saying give and take, or we can say it is not only doing give or take, it is doing get and set. So you can either do get and set, or it can do give or take. So both the things are done by model, right? What is cook doing? Cook is doing business logic. What do you mean by business logic? So business logic can be anything, right? So business logic can be give me 1+1, right? Check whether the username and password is correct, right? Similarly, the cook can take different orders. It doesn't matter, right? So it's not the only one order, or cook is not going to take only one order a day. A single customer can do 2 orders. So whatever is expected from the cook will be done by the cook. That means cook provides business logic, which is the controller, and this waiter is doing give and take, right? It becomes model, and this is the customer who is our presentation logic or our view, wherein where every order is coming, or we can say where every request is coming and every response is going to. So in our case, this Accessor and Mutator class that we have made this user, that's why I mentioned it as model. Why? Because it's a waiter. It has to take and give, or we can say set and get. Now what is set doing? Right, taking the data. What is get doing? Giving it back. All right. So what we have done here, now this is going to be, this login panel is going to be our view. Why? Because everything is viewed here. You are displaying student login panel, and you are taking username and giving it to the model, right? You can clearly see you're giving it to model. You are here giving it to model as well. All right, we can still hard code it. Let's say about why do we require a controller, we can still hard code it, right? And for that we may have to just jeopardize everything, right? So if I say if, all right, we can say u dot get username, so we can jeopardize it. So I can say if u dot get username, right, is equivalent to empty, then hey, right, why don't you do one thing? You print please write a user name. So you can still manage to do this. So you can print please write a username, right? And or you can use and right, u dot get password, it's a function, is equivalent to blank. Then you say please write a user name. Then you can clearly see that yes, you are getting it right. And is not worked here. A and D is worked here. Logical and, right? Sorry, I forgot to tell you about logical and here. Yeah. So I can say enter your username. I'll say Fahim. Enter your password. So nothing happens. Right. But now if I don't enter anything, right? So I can say please write a username. So now doing this kind of handling, this is called business logic. You're handling business logic in the view itself, right? You cannot do this. Business logic cannot be handled in a view. We have to rely and we have to apply the core object-oriented programming, and that's why we are defining our controller as accounts.py. So this is a controller now. So I'll just say this is going to be our controller, and this is going to be view and model, getters and setters. As usual, it's going to be give and take, right? So now I will create a class here. I'll say class accounts controller, right? And this accounts controller is going to take from the user, let's say about it's going to take, let's say it's going to have a function define login function, right? So now it has a login function, and it takes one object user from the, right? So now it's taking an object. Imagine this user is not a variable but it's going to be the complete object that we are demanding whenever you call this login, right? So I can say here so whenever you call login, I'll say print, right? So I can use this here hello, right? So it is just to test. But how? Wait a second. Where do you get this accounts from? For example, if I make an object of account, so I'll say AC equals, right, ACCOUNTS accounts controller. So now this is the class name accounts controller. You cannot go to the view and create an object of it, right? Because you still have to import it. Now you're going to get an error right here. What error? Account controller is not defined. Now how do you define it? So you'll say from accounts. What is accounts? You can clearly see it's the file name. Alright, so you'll say go and open the file accounts, and from that import accounts controller. So I'll say import accounts controller. So now then this is done. Don't need terminators here. I don't need terminators here, right? Then you can create an object of accounts controller. Now you can see the object of accounts controller is created without any doubt, and it's basically working. And now it's in front of you right here. Now you're creating the object here. Okay, let me not create it here. Let me create an object of user, right? And calls print student login panel and set the username and set the password from the input. Take username and password as an input from the user, and then say accounts controller, make an object of account controller, AC is equal to accounts controller, and call AC.login. And what does login take? It takes one parameter of type user. I'll pass this u right here. So now let me see what are we going to get, right? So I'll say now, let me just run. So I'll say username is equal to Fahim and password is equal to password. You're getting hello. Where are you getting this hello from? From this login function. So now the job is done. So this is the view, and you can see we're just calling the class, calling the function. Rest is done. I don't have to do anything right here. The job of view is done. The job of model is done. Set username and set password. Now the job of controller is what is pending at this time, right? So I'll say I'll create few functions. I'll say, hey, I need to create a function to check is valid, right? So I'll create a function known as it is valid, and this function is also going to accept one complete object, right, which is user right here. I'll go inside this function and I will say, hey, if, right? So I'll say if user dot get username, right, is equivalent to blank, as if user has not typed anything, and we'll say user dot get password is also going to be blank, right? So get username and get password both are functions, so always remember to use parentheses with the function, right? And no need to use braces here. So I'll say if user dot get username is equivalent to or is compared to null if it is true, and if it is password is also null if both are null, all right? And then what you say, hey, wait a second, what you need to do is you say I want to say user dot set message. I want to set the message to the object that you have passed me, because this user has three parameters: username, password, and message. And you have set username, set password, and set message, and that's what you're calling. You're saying user dot set message, right? Please write username and password, right? So then it's a return retu and return false. Return false back to the function. And now if it is not, right, you can say return true, right? So now if username is not supplied and the password is not supplied, or they supplied empty strings in username and password, you say that, hey, wait a second, please write a username and password, right? And why? And then you're returning back to this function valid. You're returning either true to the function or false. If in case that username and password is not empty, then you're returning true, because if they are not empty, so this if will never be executed, the body of if will never be executed in case both of them are not true. So then you are returning true. So that's understood, right? And I'll say another function, I will say is authentic. I'll just hard code it, right? I'll hard code this and then supply database connections with this. So I'll say self and I'll supply this user right here. So I will say if, now in that case, if user dot get username, and let me just pass it. So I'll say if user dot get username is equal to NIIT and password is equivalent to pass, if they are equivalent, I repeat, what am I telling it? That if they are equivalent, right? If the username that user has given equals to NIIT, right, and the password that user has given equals to password, then you return true, right? If it is not, right, then you return false. But before you return false, now if I say return false and then I type the message, it's going to be error. You cannot return the code and then type the message. So I'll say user.setMessage incorrect username or password, right? So that's what you're typing here, incorrect username or password, right? Okay, now this thing is also done. Fine. So this is also done. Why do we have an error code analysis? And what is this and? It's A and D and. So logical and is not written like this in Python. So we write and like this, right? So because my mind is mixed with so many programming languages, so I keep on doing these mistakes every now and again. Alright, so now we don't have any errors here, right? Fine. So authentic is going to check whether the user has typed the correct username and password, and valid is going to check maybe the user has entered something empty, right? And now we are going to call both of them, and or we can say rather we are going to encapsulate. I repeat, we are rather going to encapsulate both of them here. And what I will say, I'll say, hey, wait a second. What I need to do is I check first if is valid, or we can say if self dot is authentic, or I can say if self dot is valid. Alright, if we are having this function, who's calling this function? Login is calling this function. If, and I will pass self, and I have to pass, rather than passing self, I have to pass and this user. So now if self means within this class we have a class is valid, that takes one parameter, I am passing that one parameter. If that is true, do this. And now if it is not true, do something. Yeah, if it is true, do this. So I'll say pass, right, and pass, pass. And if it is not, pass, right? So here I will not pass, and here I will not pass. If it is true, what you got to do is, so I'll not use else, so let me not use else. So if it is true, then if the data is valid, I call the second function self dot, and then I'll say again if, let me not have braces, so I'll say if self dot is authentic and pass the object user. Alright, first you are checking if the function is valid. Valid means username and password is written. If it is written, only then call authentic. So don't call authentic function when user has not supplied any username and password. Now if it is valid, if means true, if this is also valid, because it is going to be valid if it returns true. If both are now valid, right? And now you can say user dot set message, right? And what is the message you are going to set? Right, you are logged in, right? So now this is going to be your controller, and this is where we are using accessors and mutators just to pass what we need to pass to the object right here, right? We clearly see the class right here. All right, now so let me save this and run it here and see the magic here. Now I'm calling the all login function, and I can say at the end of the day print u dot get message. Now I need to get the message what is happening. Now you go here and you say enter the username. You will enter your username, and then say you enter your password. So you can get incorrect username or password, right? Okay. Alright, so if I don't write anything, okay, we're getting this right here, student login panel, right? So it's here. Okay, so I will write it down here. Nothing. Please write username and password. We haven't written anything, so I'll run it again. So now I will try and give some wrong username and password. We are getting incorrect username or password. So let me try and give correct username and password now. Right, so correct is NIIT and password is PASS. Now you're getting you are logged in. So this is now your view. Alright, believe me, if you have understood this, your programming career is over. That means you don't require to work any more harder. You are in the heart, you are now in the core of the programming. you're going to understand, right? Now you're going to understand everything, and everything henceforth is going to be pretty easy. And in case you're not understood, please don't worry, I'll make you understand again. All right, so we still have some good amount of time remaining. All right, so you do this. I shall be giving you some practical we can say explanations regarding MVC pattern. But yeah, here if I go and match this MVC pattern with the diagram that we have made, right? So it says that divide, let everyone do its own job. So this cook is our accounts controller class. All right, so I can make it here. So I can say it's going to be the class accounts control. So now it is the class accounts controller, and the file is account. So that's why we do from accounts import accounts controller, and this is going to be our model.py file, right? And this is going to be my customer.py file. So view is going to be this. Why is this view? Because you're showing and taking data from it. It doesn't do anything, it just do calling. Call from accounts import accounts controller. So I've created accounts and imported accounts controller, and then we say from users import users, right? So from users means the file, from means the file users, import the class users, and then once both are imported you can start using them just like we're using them here, right? So you're defining a function is valid, and then you're defining is authentic, and this also I'll show you in a very good and in a very nice diagrammatic way, right? But you got to work very hard. Even if you understood 60% or 70%, those who have understood more than 50-60%, I must congratulate you as well, because you have understood nice at the first go. Because usually we'll have to repeat this MVC pattern class, we have to repeat twice. So I shall be repeating it again, but only the necessary part of it will be repeated, not the entire class will be repeated. Only necessary part will be repeated, but giving you an overview at the end of the class would include the following. Now what is it that you call, right? First you call users, and then you set username, you set password. So set is done. Set is going to do what, right? Self.username is equal to the parameter you are passing. You're passing username parameter, password as parameter. Both are going to be set here, right? So now you are setting it up. Then you're calling accounts controller, making an object of class accounts controller, and it has a one function. It has one function login. You're calling this function login here. And now what this function does, it calls other three functions. If self dot is valid, first checks, hey, someone has called you, please check if you are having valid data. Now valid data is going to check whether username and password is blank. If it is blank, right, then you get please write a username and a password. If it is not, then you are returning true. You don't have to worry about. Now if it returns true, then and only then this authentic is called. Now when this authentic is called, checks whether the username is an ID and the password supplies is password. If they match, or if they don't match, then you say user.set message, incorrect username or password, because this is the user. You're doing set message here, you're doing set message here, you're doing set message here. That's why you are able to do only one print, and one print is showing you how many messages. Let me show you, right? Please write a username and password, the first message. Right, the second message, incorrect username or password, NIIT and password, right? Okay, I don't know, just let me create a bit of more space here, right? So I'll enter my username NIIT and I'll enter my password as password, right? And now you can see, why don't I get anything? Incorrect username or password. Yeah, it's not password, it's pass, I suppose. NIIT and pass, right? You are logged in. So we're getting three messages, only one print. That's only possible because we are doing, in every function we are supplying object rather than supplying a normal argument, which is a variable argument. We are supplying object as an argument, right? So this object has message. That means we are boxing here, we are setting the message. I mean, we are filling the message here, right? And we are takes filling the message here and then everywhere we are filling. But yeah, you have to understand the basic logic. You call login, check if it's valid. Yeah, it is not valid, but you have to give user a message. Why isn't this valid? You'll say, please write a username and a password. Is it authentic? You'll have to give user the message. If it is not authentic, incorrect username or password. Alright, so now you cannot let the user call three functions. You'll call first, then you'll call second, then you'll call third. So no, that's not going to happen. Alright, this is called encapsulation. This is genuine encapsulation, wrapping up data. Right, you can see we're wrapping up data. Right, all three functions are meant to be called, and all three functions are called in a single function in here. Right, so this is what called data wrapping, and this is what called encapsulation. Encapsulation means wrapping up data in order to reduce the overhead. We're reducing overhead here, and I shall be content to explain it tomorrow again. Please do practice very hard. Let me know if I can help you down in the comment section, or you can message me directly as well. But yeah, this is going to be the heart of everything that you do, that we do henceforth. So if you have not understood, please stop me recording the next lecture unless you understand it. If you do not stop me, I'll consider you understood everything. I'll go forward, and this is something that Django relies upon. If you don't understand this, then I'm sorry, you'll be wasting your time, right? So even if you've understood 50 to 60%, still congratulations. I'll try and make you understand in the next class, inshallah. See you. Bye-bye, and take care till then. And do pray for me. Bye-bye.